Ladies and gentlemen, it's just gone on 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm sure we'll have a few more folks joining us as we go, and as I said, today's webinar will be recorded. Before I hand over to Ian from Xero, I'd just like to remind people, make sure you pay attention during the polls and respond to those polls so that we can give you and your attendees CPE. At the end of this webinar, I'm changing it around slightly, you will be prompted to click on a link that will take you to the survey. So that's where you'll have an opportunity to fill in the names and email addresses of anyone else that's sitting in the room that also needs CPE, and also give us some feedback about how we can improve our webinar program. So when we end the webinar, there will be a pop-up of some description, so look for that pop-up. You might also have a disabled pop-up notice that will come up at some point, so just keep an eye out for that if the pop-up doesn't immediately. But there will be a link in there which will take you to the survey, which we will use to get CPE out. So that's the housekeeping. Any questions that you do have along the way, please be sure to plug those into the question section. We will be asking those throughout the presentation, and we'll do our best to get all your questions answered. And also anything following the webinar, if you think of something tomorrow or later today, feel free to shoot myself an email and I'll do my best to answer that. Today we're talking about moving our firm to the cloud and the 10 steps that are involved in that. And rather than me sharing with you what I think you should be doing, I thought it was better to get Xero involved, who have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of accounting firms around the world that are moving their clients to this web-based system. The power of the web is truly amazing, from an ability to collaborate, from an ability to get some really good quality real-time data. And Ian from Xero is going to share with us what users of Xero are doing and how they're moving their practice and how they're moving their accounting firm into the cloud. So Ian, I'll hand over to you, and if it's okay with you, I'll interrupt with questions and any thoughts or stories that I have along the way as well.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and first of all, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, loud and clear. Thank you.
So appreciate it. And again, we're going to talk about the 10 steps to move your practice and your clients to the cloud. I've actually, in terms of the content, in terms of what we're going to walk through today, it's a collection of what we've gathered from the thousands upon thousands of accounting professionals that have moved to us, but also from my time in industry as well. And it's meant to be, it's generic in the fact that it applies not only to Xero, but other cloud accounting products and other products that you might use. So I'll weave in terms of the Xero perspective, but again, the steps are generic, and so at the end of today, you'll get a good sense about what the journey is like and the steps along the way. I think it's probably a good good segue here is just to kick off immediately with a polling question, Damien, to kick that off, and then I'll go into a little bit of my agenda, which is I'm going to talk a little bit about Xero overall. We're going to go through the 10 steps, show how that all comes together, talk a little bit about Xero itself at the end, and then go into some Q&A. Sound like a good start?
Yeah, perfect, Ian. So let's do that. Let's get everyone's responses in terms of where are they currently on this continuum of a movement towards the cloud. And again, please just reply to these, as this helps us facilitate the CPE process, gives us some feedback of where you are, just to make sure we're on the right track as well. So Ian, with about 70% having reported, we've got the vast majority, 44%, 50% who are considering it, and nearly 20% are saying 50-50. No one is 100% in the cloud. Interestingly, 8% have said not interested, but hopefully at the end of today's webinar we'll have converted you and you'll see the benefits of moving to this environment. So with about 90% having reported, let's leave it open for 5 more seconds. Ian, here are the results.
It looks like I got my work cut out for me with that 8%.
I know, 8%. I was surprised by that. So we've got 17% are saying 50-50. 25% have said we've got a few clients up there, or parts of my practice up there. 50%, the vast majority, have said considering it. And then last but not least, 8% have said they're not interested. So Ian, I will hand back to you and take it away.
Perfect. So first thing is and let me move on. So who exactly am I? So again, my name is Ian Vacin. I'm the Vice President here of Marketing and Product at Xero, based out of the San Francisco office. All my numbers are there, so feel free if you want to give me a call at any time. I prefer not in the middle of the night, but you know, it is whatever works for you. But again, we're pretty open here. You can talk to me or anyone within the staff. Just background, I've been at Xero for about a year. Before that, I actually worked at Intuit for over 8 years, and there I led the QuickBooks Pro Advisor program, the Mac product lines, and I've worked on every version of the QuickBooks product or the flavors of the QuickBooks product. So I've got a little bit of context, and I've been in high tech for about 20 years. A little bit about Xero overall. Well, who is Xero? Xero is the global leader in online accounting. We've got customers in over 100 countries. We're doubling year over year in terms of our revenue, our customers, and now it's in employees. So it seems like. So we've got well over 300 staff spread across 4 major locations: New Zealand, Australia, the UK, and in the US. Specifically in the US, we've got offices in San Francisco, Austin, and Atlanta. We're not new to the game. We're not new to accounting. We've been around since 2006, public in 2007 in New Zealand, recently went public in Australia about 4 months ago. We've processed over $140 billion of transactions through our systems. We release product about every 6 weeks. What's a big differentiator and difference for us is really around unlimited users with different permission roles, and that's both for accounting professionals and for small businesses. We do not collect money from accounting professionals. It's free. All the tools are free, including the practice tools, so I can talk about that later. And then it's all about getting the data in. So, from us, it's around bank feeds, which we work with over 5,000 financial institutions. And that's a quick overview of Xero itself. I really want to get into the meat of the presentation. So,
Ian, could I quickly just...
slide. You got to have... Yep.
Ian, could I just quickly talk to that comment about a new release released every 6 weeks? The amazing thing about that is you don't notice anything except the change when you log into the web-based platform. You don't get a little pop-up box says that you have to run an update and then run around every machine in the office like a mad person updating the latest software releases from, say, a QuickBooks or a traditional software package. So that is something that we've seen a lot of accounting firms and a lot of clients really like, that regardless of when they log in, they're always on the same version, the latest version with the latest updates, and that's a huge efficiency saver and headache saver as well. Sorry, Ian.
Yeah, and we give proper heads up in terms of what it is. We give a lot of details around what's coming as well, so you know what's coming in the future. And by doing releases very frequently, you don't get massive change in products. So you don't, in terms of some of the traditional incumbents, in 1 year you may see a massive dramatic shift to the UI or to the processes, and that can catch you pretty flat-footed. The big benefit of cloud solutions overall, just to go down that tangent, is you don't have the magical thumb drive that's bouncing from office to office, and the lack of collaboration on the books. So it's a real problem to keep your data up in real time. And so with all of these products, it's about being in sync with your clients and working with them hand in hand, day in and day out, and really being the trusted advisor and being able to guide them as time goes on, versus spending all the time trying to find and fix data entry errors, and really just trying to get the numbers to be right. The whole premise is let's not worry about getting the numbers right. Let's just make them right to begin with, and let's focus on the consultative side and making the proper decisions so that the small business can succeed, and also the accounting professional can be a hero and ultimately succeed as well. So that's a little bit of the color in terms of just cloud accounting as an overall state. Going back to the slides, you got to have one chart. You always want to go from the left and up into the upper right. So we got ours. This is really our customer acquisition, and it took us over 5 years to get our first 50,000 customers, and our second 50,000 customers came over the last 10 months. And this chart's already out of date. We just released yesterday that we're well over 135,000 paying organizations. So we do it by organization. So our customer count's well north of 200,000 in terms of users in the system. So again, phenomenal growth, but a testament to the product and a testament to the transitions that we're seeing within the accounting professional space overall. So let's dive straight into the content. So today's talk is really going to go over 3 particular unique phases. The meatiest one is really this learn phase and taking those first steps. And the second one is once you learn is being able to expand that footprint, and then the third one is really thriving and being able to make it turn and being able to cycle it even further. And so I've broken the steps down into these buckets, and so we're going to go ahead and just jump right on into the first step, which is really around learning. So a lot of folks that come to us and a lot of people that I meet day in and day out, and it goes back to the polling question, which is, I'm either not interested or I'm interested, but I don't know where to go. It's really how do you break down the barriers so that it's easy for you to be able to understand these products, understand how the technology has changed, and be able to minimize the variables and minimize your exposure to your client base. And so step one is really all about that, which is, well, how do you take that first step? And it's really adopting Xero or adopting any of these solutions for your own practice. So it's eating your own dog food, for lack of better words. And so the reason for doing this is what you're able to do is you're able to minimize all the noise and all the complexity that you might see in terms of starting off the client engagement. Some people do that, but I really push people to do this here. This is one of the reasons why if you become a partner with Xero, again, the partner program is free. We provide you a free Xero large edition so you can see Xero for yourself, use it for your own practice, and really get up to speed on what it's all about. But the key thing here is when you bring it for your own practice, the data that's you live that, you breathe that, you understand that. So you're not having to worry about the data issue. What you're going to be worried about are the different changes that I've listed here. And so, if anyone tells you that, a product is similar to what you may have seen before, you should probably walk the other way. Every product operates differently. Every product looks differently, and every product functions differently. Fortunately, accounting is accounting. That stays relatively the same. And so when you're adopting for your own practice, you're really trying to understand, well, what does it take to migrate from my current solution or my current preferred solution to this new product? What is it going to take to move the data? What is it going to take in order to get up and running? And understand that pain for yourself, or understand that transition, so that it's not going to be a new territory when dealing with a client. The second is navigation. Every product has a slightly different navigation, and that's one of the huge efficiencies you get from the package you may be using today. However, every product takes steps forward in terms of optimizing and make that navigation even better. And so it's really just getting acquainted with, well, where are the buttons here, where's the functionality, because again, you don't want to be stumbling over that when you're working with a client. The next one is really around the workflow, and the accounting workflow is relatively the same from product to product, but the nomenclature is going to change. The workflow is also going to be more or less probably more efficient than probably what you've been using traditionally. And so it's really understanding how that workflow all comes together and where some of the big efficiencies are to be found. And so again, by not having to deal with the data issue, you're able to see how the data all comes together, in particular that workflow. Now, what's the lessons that you want to learn from this particular step? It's really understanding as you go through, well, what the target client that I could put on this product. There is no, again, another adage that some people will say, there is no product that's right for everybody, every small business out there. Different products are focused on different audience types. Xero is pretty broad. I mean, it can handle a whole set of folks. But again, one of the reasons why we have over 130 add-ons is because we're not going to be right for everybody, and the add-ons help make it so that it's right for a particular vertical or a particular solution. But other products out there as well, they focus on different things, and they might be right for that particular client. So again, it's understanding how this comes together from your own experience. The next really comes down to moving to the cloud is really about mobility. It's about accessibility. It's about being able to do things anytime, anywhere. And what that allows for and what that brings that's different than what traditional solutions have brought is really the reestablishment of that client relationship. It's all about the collaboration. You now have a single place where the data is accessed by both yourself and your client. And that data is real time. And again, if the solution like Xero, you're using that, again, there's really great collaboration tools to sit around that. And so no longer is the situation where you may go without a month without speaking to somebody, or a quarter, or a year, whatever it might be. The products are geared for that ongoing conversation. So there's things like chat within the application. There's the ability to comment when coding so you don't make mistakes. There's commentary and reports. There's publishing that to your particular client so they can see it when it's ready to go with all the commentary leading to what would be maybe a monthly or quarterly conversation around what to do with their business. And so it's really about understanding how collaboration can really fundamentally change your engagements. And the last thing on the lessons learned is the unknowns. Again, you don't know until you try it, and you won't find the things unless you really start to play with the solution. And so it's really trying to uncover those things that you may not have expected, and then getting those answers. And so again, reaching out to your own network, reaching out to other partners for that solution, so reaching out to other Xero partners if you're using Xero, and getting those answers again, so that way you have full clarity and full confidence in what you're doing and how that solution can work for you. Now, all of this centers around what I'm going to go through in this talk about capturing the white space. And what that is by using these new cloud accounting tools or these different cloud solutions, what you're ultimately able to get is really, really high efficiency. So you're able to do more in less time. And so that is the white space. That is that area of capture, and it's going to lead to a step later down in pricing. But ultimately, is what you do with that. How do you be able to leverage that to get even more efficiencies out of it? Are you going to take that spare time and use it for spending time with your family? Are you going to use that spare time in order to do value-added services or be more consultative? But that white space is the key quintessential component that you want to get out of using these products. And so, that ladders into a few things. One is being more proactive with your clients. Again, you now have the ability to see everything real time. You're now able to see, what the progress is of the client, when their last activity was, where they're struggling, and some of the nuances of what they're doing with financials. So again, taking that relationship and moving it from reactive to proactive. Again, I talked about the collaboration already, and again, increasing the client activity in the financials. I know that's a little bit scary, but again, it's about setting them up, onboarding them, and then ultimately getting them the confidence to do the things that they need to do in order to allow you the freedom to be able to do the consultative level of work.
And Ian,
again, the fun stuff.
Ian, can I just chime in there and add this increased client activity? I know that the more times we see our clients, the more opportunities we identify to help them. And if we can spend more time talking about what's really going on in the business rather than trying to clean up QuickBooks or trying to clean up the chart of accounts or trying to clean up journal entries and get really focused in on what's going on in the business, we're going to identify so many more opportunities where you as an accountant can help build and grow their business. So that's something that that this really allows us to do, that collaboration and getting in front of your clients much more often with more timely and relevant information.
Yeah, I mean, in a little color on that, I used to own my own small business, and I got into the accounting professional field because we didn't manage our finances that well, and we didn't have a great relationship with our accounting professional originally. And from a small business perspective, they went into business because they do something really well, and it's probably not the financials. And for them, it's about getting paid from their particular customers, bills, and making sure they get that done. It's dealing with the compliance, and it's ultimately paying their employees. So that's some of the stuff that they got to get done. But that's not necessarily what they want to focus on. However, the relationship with their accounting professional, with that trusted advisor, is critical for the success. And so it's not what those businesses want. It's not making sure the numbers are right. That's good for compliance. But it's really having someone in their corner, having someone in their inner circle that can advise them on, well, what do I need to double down in? What things in my business are going well and what things are going south, and identifying those as soon as possible and then helping them make the right decisions so that their business can move forward. And so when you're working in the fact that you're just cleaning up the data and you're not doing things in an active, proactive, and an ongoing basis, it really starts to, makes the relationship start to fall apart. And so again, I'm going to keep coming back to that the collaboration and that proactive component is super critical for small business success, and ultimately that's what drives everything for providing great client service and ultimately great outcomes for both the small business and for yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into step 2, which is, again, after you've adopted for your own practice and you get the lessons learned there, and you get the familiar and you get the confidence. It's really, and this goes back to what the polling question was about. Well, how do you take that next step and actually do this with clients? And what clients do you bring on? Again, it's not a light switch where obviously you decide to do it and everything magically appears there. It's a journey and it's a process. And so the first step is identification of those 2 or 3 first clients that you're going to move. So what I've laid out here is a good understanding of what are the easy ones that you can bring in to help you take that next step down the journey. And Xero and other products can cover the wide variety of different clients you'll see out there. So this isn't what Xero can do overall, but what it is it's a template for you to identify which of these clients are going to, again, going back to minimizing the variables, minimizing the complexity, so that you're focusing on their data, on getting them up and running, and not all the complexities you might get from more complicated clients. And so, again, on the firmographics, it's really you're looking at younger companies. Those have been established in 2 years or less. And the reason for that, it generally translates to the next bullet, which is they're generally more tech savvy, they're usually more forward thinking, they're earlier in their processes, so they're more likely to be able to deal with change, and they can deal with change management, and they're more receptive and probably more aggressive. And so the tech savviness usually comes out in those particular types of firms. The less than 10 employees is mentioned because when you start dealing with large numbers of employees, you start to deal with departmentalization, and you start to deal with individualization of roles. And what you're doing then is adding the complexity of having to take the cloud-based solution and being able to distribute it in terms of a role-based environment, and having people working in different sections of maybe the application. And again, what that does is it just provides, it adds more to the plate than you may want to take on just right off the get-go. All doable, all easy, but again, it's all about minimizing those variables on those first couple clients. Now, the industries that pop up generally that we see that are the easier ones to work with are those professional service-based ones, those creative agencies, those online companies. And the reason for that is they generally reflect the firmographics I talked about. They're generally less complex in nature. They don't have, they have simple items. They have usually simpler processes, and again, they're usually easier to manage. And again, it's really about simplification on these first clients so that you can make that transitionary step from the solution perspective. The next one is really on usage, and these are just quick not red flags, but quick identifiers to know whether or not a cloud-based accounting solution is right for them. If you see Macs or a mixture of Macs and PCs in a particular environment, that leads to the tech-savvy component that I was looking at before. If you're seeing smartphones and tablets, that means there's a really high desire for mobility, that anytime, anywhere access, which again is a predisposition for going to these particular types of solutions. So those usage patterns really help you to identify, well, these are probably some of the folks that are probably most likely to want to move on to this. Now, I've listed a few of the avoids, and the avoids are again, not because the solution can't handle it, but again, you want to minimize that complexity. So if you're dealing with heavy inventory, it's a lot to put on your plate right off the start. And so what I would do is I would shy away from those on your first couple clients. The other one is really around integrations. If you're putting together, what the cloud allows you to do is build these best-of-breed systems that were reserved only for enterprise systems of the last decade. And so you can build really great verticalized best-of-breed solutions, and it is easy to do that. But again, you don't want to put that on top of everything else when you're dealing with these first ones. And then heavy transaction volume, again, it just puts more load. And again, you want to be able to see how it goes through before you really take some of these heavier issues on. Now, some of the situations that come up that we see that they're ones that we really well to this is the first is just this time of year is really around those write-up and tax clients. And the reason is these are generally one-time relationships. They generally, for Xero specifically, it's really easy to get versus 1 year's worth of data, load into the system, and code it extremely fast. But then you can hook up the bank feeds and have it continually give you data that allows you to be able to see their financials on an ongoing basis, and then be able to get them into understanding how being on top of their finances can really move their business. So write-up and tax clients are a really good opportunity to be able to move into this realm. I got a great way. A lot of folks are actually using the problem clients, and so I'll talk a little later about looking at your client base. But you know who your problem clients are. You can name them off. They take a lot of your time, and at the end of the day, it's probably not good value for you. Your time is very limited, and you need to be dealing with that appropriately. And so it's changing that relationship and moving that to something different that's going to hopefully get better efficiency and better client management. And so I've got a partner, for example, in Boston who had 5 clients that he was going to fire. And so he was already going to do that anyway. So it was a good test ground for him to see, well, is this going to change things, and can I learn from it? So get some value out of it. And it turns out, he had the 5 clients. He ended up firing one of them, but the other 4 became some of his best clients because the solutions allowed for that ongoing proactive nature and that ongoing management of the finances, which really steered and changed that relationship. So again, not only was it a learning ground, but it also was an impetus to change the client engagement overall. The last one is really around cost-conscious clients, and these are folks, you know who they are, but these solutions, the cloud-based accounting solutions, are generally all subscription-based, and they all come in a low monthly fee. And so what you can do is change it from being big hits in terms of what they've got to pay in terms of the smaller chunks. And it doesn't mean that there's less money on the table. What it means is it's more predictive. It's more, it's for them, and they can plan around it, and it breaks it down into a monthly payment cycle. And so those are also great situations. On timing, end of year is always good, but I actually tell people, you should do it prior to the end of year so you can get a solution up and running simultaneously and then be able to train your clients in moving into that new solution. So again, right now is not a bad time either because again, you can go ahead and be able to move things forward and be able to do that training. But the reality is there's no bad time, but it's always best after you're doing a cleanup or reconciliation. You want to have those books in a good state before doing any sort of movement or switch. And so, again, depending on how often you do that, that's a good transitionary point because data in or garbage in, garbage out, you don't want to be dealing with that particular piece of the equation. So that's step 2 on identification of the first couple of clients. I'm going to go ahead and move to step 3.
Ian, let's launch a quick poll and just ask a quick question in terms of let's ask the group, my first client using cloud accounting was or will be, what are the characteristics, which number 1 characteristic comes to mind when you think of the first client that you pulled onto the cloud or that you're thinking about who that will be? Is it a mobile client? Is it somebody that is a Mac user? Is it a new client? Maybe just a write-up or tax client? And if it's an other, please describe and throw that down into the question section or the chat section. But what we've got coming back, and again, we need this just to prove that you've been participating in today's webinar and haven't ducked out for caffeine or whatnot. So we're seeing 10% saying a mobile client, 10% saying a new client, and the vast majority of 80% saying it'll be a write-up client. So Ian, is that fairly typical of what you're seeing with the firms that you work with, that it's a current write-up client that would like to simplify things?
It is. If we did this webinar 3 months from now, it would shift dramatically, but it is the time of year, and so that becomes, again, it doesn't surprise me, but again, it does change depending on the seasonality. So we generally will see later a higher influx of the mobile, but again, the write-up is everybody's, we just passed the 1099 deadline. Again, it's all top of mind, and it's all easy.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So let's go through, let's move 3. So step 3 is, well, we've identified those clients, so now we actually got to make the step to actually work with them on this new product or this new platform. And so, I've nicknamed this set up, convert, and learn. And so this is now, you've got those clients, you've made the engagement, and now you've moved them on to a product like Xero. And so it's really around the key insights, and you got to take a step back after you've had these engagements, after you've started, and kind of see what worked and what didn't. What in terms of the product did the client use? What did they value? What did they use? You can get a sense from talking to them in terms of, well, what did they gravitate towards? What did they dislike? What was the struggle? What didn't make sense? What didn't you, possibly train them on? Where were they confident in? And for you personally, where did you get efficiencies? Where did you struggle in terms of client management? Did you capture the collaboration? There's all sorts of things, and you have to take that 10,000-foot view and reevaluate. The key of all of that on the insights is where's the white space, because that's where the value is, not only for yourself but for your client. And so where did you get those efficiencies? Where did you get those additional benefits? Where were the things that allowed you to reinforce and strengthen that relationship with your client? You can only do that once you take the step back. The questions you ask yourself when you've taken that step back, take the step back, and you looked at maybe what didn't work is, did I onboard correctly? I cannot tell you how important it is when you set up with and no matter what solution, whether it be your current one or using a cloud-based solution, but spending that 30 minutes to teach them what they need to do. Because again, they're not savvy in financials, they're not savvy in packages. It's not necessarily the place they want to live and breathe. But if you sit down and you tell them what they need to do and show them how to do it and give them the confidence, it will change your relationships and change your engagements. It doesn't take long. The second one is, did we really collaborate? Again, the reason for doing this is get mobility, but to get that collaboration. And that collaboration, as we talked about at the beginning, saves you from doing all of that data cleanup, saves you from all the things that are taking away from providing that consultative advice that everybody wins from. The last one's really, is the client using the solution? So in Xero, you can see, when was the last time they logged in? You can see the activity that they've done. That's all right front and center for both you and the client. And so again, you can monitor and you can push and spur them to be able to really be able to get the benefits of the platform. And then, where do you go from here? What more is there to learn? And again, I can't stress enough, but it's proactive client management. It's really being able to work closely with your clients. The next one, and we're going to talk about it, is teaching that client to fish. It's teaching them to do more and more inside the financials and getting that data in, capturing expenses while on the road, all sorts of things, so that the data is up to speed and available in real time to help make those decisions that are critical to the business board. And then it's expanding the workflows. We chose these clients because they're simpler, but you want to be able to expand beyond that to be able to handle more complicated business, but also expand the footprint of the small business so that they can capture more efficiencies and more benefits from other functions maybe within Xero, or maybe functions or jobs that are satisfied by add-ons or whatever the products might be. So again, that's kind of where we take the first clients and what we're going to be able to get out of those clients to then ultimately move to our next phase, which is really around expansion of that. And so you now got a couple clients. You're going to go ahead and you want to be able to leverage that and move to a broader base. And so what are the tips to be able to get to a higher level of scale? And steps 4 is really establishing clear rules of engagement. Again, from a small business perspective, they're coming to you because they need advice, they need assistance. And it's shocking when you sit down and you talk to a lot of these guys. I spent the last 10 years working close with small businesses. They just want to be told what to do. They want to be told, well, this is what I need to do, this is what you're going to do, this is how we work together, and then this is what I'm going to get at the end of the day. And what I'm going to get at the end of the day is great advice that's going to make my business work and make it very successful, whatever success is defined as. And so it's really, from your perspective, establishing those clear rules of engagement and that transparency up front of who does what and what the pricing might be underneath it. Now, the steps to follow are, and I'll give you some examples, and I'm going to show you kind of where you can take this in terms of scale. Is the first thing is just literally just make a contract, put it down in paper, put it down in writing, because that ability and the small business will recognize what they're signing up to do, and it really sets you up for a better relationship and better usage and better attentiveness to the product. And so make the contract, put it down. The next one, I talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to go into more detail on it, but onboard effectively. It's our job, accounting professional's job, in order to set that client up for success. So spend the time up front because it will save you loads of time on the back end. And that's explaining, well, this is the products we use, these are the processes we follow, these are the ones that you're going to participate in, and this is what I'm going to do in conjunction with that. And let's sit down and walk through it together. Let's get you confident so you can do it on your own. And then the last one is be there for the client. You do that already, but don't sit in the background. Be more proactive. Again, leverage the collaboration the tools provide you so that you can go in there and really be able to give the heads up for the client and they feel like somebody's got their back. So I'm going to go into a quick example and then we'll go through the orders of activities. There's a client, there's a partner that we have in New Zealand, and it's a good example. It's him and he's got 5 bookkeepers in his office. He has 500 clients, all of which pay $500 a month for his services. Now do the math there. That's a fantastic business. but also look at the amount of load that's on that system. So the question is, well, how does he do it? And what he does is he follows the contract and he pushes the data entry activities back onto the small business and pushes it so that it's being done as the activities are happening in the day-to-day activities of the business. And so, it goes back to the orders of activities. Start with the bank reconciliation. Products, Xero is geared around the bank rec and makes it super easy and makes it like a game. And so essentially as time goes on, it's just agreeing or saying okay to what the system has already understood the transaction to be. So the data entry automatically goes away because you're coding it over time and it's learning. So the bank reconciliation on a day-by-day basis is important because it stops things from going south and creating these data entry problems. If somebody doesn't know how to code it, they write a comment, you see it, you code it, you teach them, they move on. So again, it's making sure you don't put bad data in to begin with. You're moving from the bank rec to then expense claims. So as somebody's on the road, this is why we have Zero Touch and a mobile app. Make it drop dead simple for you. Get an expense, you pay for something, pick up your phone, take a picture, quickly describe what it was. Again, you don't have to even do the coding or anything else. Get it into the system. That way it's all there. You're not having to scramble for this at the end of the month. Again, if it's not in the system, you don't get paid. It's just a policy. Get it done. And then next, moving on to the AR and AP invoices, which again, you're graduating the small business into more complicated things in the application, and they're taking more onus as time goes on. That ultimately helps them feel like they have control. It helps them stay in tune with their books, and it ultimately frees you up to be doing the fun stuff, which is, again, looking at the numbers, providing advice, showing what they can do to truly change the trajectory of their business. Now, again, the example is from the example that I brought up of the accounting professional in New Zealand is, so what does he do? In his contract, he says, every morning you wake up, you will do the bank rec. And it's funny because everyone usually does, goes into online banking in the morning anyways and spends 30 seconds to figure out what their bank account totals are. But in Xero, you can go ahead and do your bank rec in probably less than 3 minutes. So it is a little bit more time, but now you've got a complete view of your business, and you, as the small business goes through the day, they know exactly where they stand. And so there's no surprises, and they know where to be doing in terms of collections and other things. So again, bank rec in the morning. The second one was what we call pay, shoot, and claim. You're on the road, you pay for something. As soon as you pay for something, use your phone, take a picture, make an expense claim. What that does, again, it gets that data in, and it stops all this wasted time in order to track all this stuff down later. And then the last thing that he does is he makes sure that anybody who writes an invoice, it's in the system within 12 hours. And all these things, when brought together, empowers the small business to get the data in, but it also eliminates any of this data not being being outside of the system. And they don't have to do much more than that. It's all coming together, and then the accounting professional, they can go in and be able to do all the other legwork that needs to be done. But again, that's how you can build a really established, larger client base from leveraging what the cloud solutions have to offer. So my next topic is really around value-based pricing. So what I want to do is throw it back over, and let's do a quick polling question so I got to get a sense of where everybody's at on that particular topic.
Good stuff. So let's ask the question, have you considered value-based pricing? And again, we just want to get some feedback from the audience so we can tailor appropriately, but also make sure that people are paying attention for CPE. So far, there we go. We had 100% reporting everyone already do it, so I wonder if just a few folks had gotten involved. But looks like 40% are saying they already do it, 25% are saying not sure how to transition to it, and then the remaining 30%, they're saying, no, I like my current pricing model, which that is a bit higher than what I would think, specifically because we're really seeing a shift away from the traditional time and billing, particularly for these write-up engagements. When we talk about the regular, consistent engagements, that's changing, but we can certainly talk about how we implement that. But looks like most people have responded there, Ian, and 45% are saying already do it. 27% have said not sure how to transition to it, and then the remaining 27% have said no, I like my current pricing model. It's a discussion that probably warrants a full day of its own, But give us your thoughts and experiences on how other firms using Xero or web-based accounting packages are able to shift to this value-based fixed fee engagements.
Yeah, so I actually am giving a talk next week where we go into this in detail. I'm doing it with Michelle Long. So again, it warrants a much longer conversation. So I'm just going to cover it at a higher level here. People can reach out to me in addition. So I've spent the last couple of weeks meeting with really top-notch folks in the area like Ron Baker and others, trying to get a little bit of mind share across the industry. But also we've seen a lot of this inside of Xero as well. Value-based pricing is not easy. Anybody that tells you that there's a silver bullet on how to do it and that you can instantly just change your practice of doing it, again, they're crazy. It is not simple. And again, there is no right or wrong. It's what's best for your practice. So I'm not going to prescribe to anybody, this is what you have to do. But I will say that unlike in the past with the traditional solutions, the cloud-based solutions provide you the mechanisms to be able to do this much more simply. And again, going back to capturing that white space and that efficiencies, if your solutions are becoming more efficient and you're able to capture that efficiency and you're doing an hourly based model that you might be doing before, what you're doing then is you're losing out on the value that you bring and the money on the table. So if I can do something that was for instance, in Xero and cash coding, if I was to do fast cash coding in QuickBooks, it's going to take me a long time to do that. But in Xero, we had one guy do 60,000 lines in the cash coding area and saving lines, and he was able to do that in 1 hour. So 60,000 lines in 1 hour. You do the math on what that would be in QuickBooks, and again, there's a lot of time spent there. But however, from a small business perspective, they're not interested in necessarily what the time is. They're interested in what the value is. And so that's really around why we've seen a shift and why people are doing that. Cloud solutions also, again, they're usually on subscription models, and from the Xero perspective, we allow you to control the billing, the subscriptions, and everything else. And so from a small business perspective, they may be most likely just getting a bill from you versus getting a bill from us. And so that's how you're able to wrap your services around the products themselves. And so again, that lends itself to being able to do these more monthly predictable billing cycles. So the things to consider on how to move to value-based pricing for those that are interested in it is really you got to be strategic. You got to have a plan. You just don't go ahead and flip a switch on this. What you need to do is you need to stand back and look at your business and understand how it applies to your business and how you want to approach it. You need to go and do an inventory of your services. What do you provide or what do you want to provide? What are the things that are typical for your client engagements so you understand how they come together? What is the basic level of services that you always provide? How do you weave in services that ultimately allow you to be more proactive in the relationship? So got an example of a guy who, when he does his tax services, he always puts in a service for ad hoc tax advice that's included in the bundle. And what that is, it provides cognizant, or it recognizes the small business that they're paying for this, so they need to pick up the phone and call when they got a question. And that eliminates that sort of friction and barrier that may have existed before when I'm not going to pick up the phone to call you because I had this problem when I had my own small business because I'm going to have to pay for the 15 minutes because I had a question that was related to how I could ultimately change the trajectory of my business. But I didn't want to pay the $15 because I didn't know what the answer was going to be. So you need to think about how that comes together. The second thing is this has been going on for over 20 years. And there's folks who have done it and done it really well, and there's folks that are in the same sort of predicament that you're in or in the same state. So ask an expert. There's a lot of folks that are doing this and doing this really well. At least in the Xero partner community, you can reach out to any of the other partners, and they'll give you the things that they learned, the tips and tricks. I mean, you've got your own local networks that you can rely on as well, but you don't need to go down this path alone. There's a lot of other people that have learned things along the way, and you should leverage that in terms of as you adopt this. The last one is really trial and error. You're not going to get it right the first time, and it's really figuring out how to be able to meander to what's right for your business. And so again, you take the lessons of others, you get a plan in place, you try it, you learn, you then move it into the second phase with the second client. There's a lot more to it. Again, I talked to it on length in a different webinar, and again, there's a lot of content here. Just on how things come together, a lot of people use bundles, and again, you've all seen this. Again, I give a couple models here. The first one is good, better, best. Here's the package on the good that it's going to meet the basic needs. Better is where most people are going to go, and it provides a little bit of additional value. And then the best is here's my full solutions. and here's what it becomes. And some people will go ahead and cost each one of those out. Other people may not. There's strategies on both. The next one is really minimal, typical, open-ended, which is you put your baseline services at the low end and you price it. You do your typical, which is what which most people gravitate towards, and then you give your full list of all of your services, and it's to be determined pricing. So people can pick and choose, and then you frame up what that pricing would be accordingly. And the last one is learn, evaluate, propose, and what that is your standard RFQ process, where you sit down with a small business, you understand what your pain points are, you ask the 5 whys on what to know about their business. From that, you then establish what you think is going to be the right thing for their needs, and then you provide a proposal. And generally that proposal is, again, in 3 different packages, so that you give them the control to be able to choose what's right for them, and empowers a small business and ultimately leads to good outcomes. So again, that's it in a nutshell in terms of value-based pricing. I can go into this more later, and feel free, I'll show you where you can learn where I do other talks as well.
And Ian, could I just add there, first time you'll get it wrong. At 2020, we're not proponents of trashing the timesheet, as some other folks out there are. We think timesheets should be kept as a efficiency and productivity mechanism, not as a pricing mechanism, because it's really important that after the engagement's done, we go back and look at how much time was actually involved to make sure, particularly in the early phases of phasing in value-based pricing, that we got the numbers right. And it's interesting, the first couple that we've done, we've underestimated how much time it has been actually involved. So that's why we like to keep the timesheets to track the time, but not price based on that time. So that's just my 2 cents before you move on to step 6, Ian.
Yeah, and there's philosophical debates to be done there. I stay away from that. I think again, it's what's right for you. And again, you got to know your costs. If you understand your costs, then you can understand the value on top of that. So you always want to cover your costs. So there's different viewpoints, and again, you got to figure out what's right for yourself. The step 6 is really what I called embracing the cloud opportunity. So one of the main reasons for moving to the cloud is the ability to piece together these best-of-breed systems. You know, I used to work on enterprise systems over almost 15 years ago, and again, these things were only reserved for really big enterprise systems, and you piece together, supply chain with, e-commerce and everything else. But now, with the cloud, you get all of that functionality at your fingertips, and it's super easy to be able to connect these systems together. It may just be put a token, pointing one app to another. It's really simple. But in terms of the Xero context, we have over 130 of these applications. So the reality is every solution is designed around a specific pain point. And so it's putting those solutions together and then creating that verticalized solution for your small business. So I listed some of the categories there. There's a whole wealth of them. And again, once you've gotten past the rules of engagement, value-based pricing, it's really expanding what the solution set's going to be. There's also apps for you. So there's there's things on bill payment. There's like bill.com is a good example, document management, e-marketing, payroll, all these other things that you can use for your own practice. We have a product called Workflow Max for practice management. There's work papers and things of that nature. So again, there's a whole slew of things that also can attach to, for instance, Xero that enable your practice to be successful. So it's not just for your clients, it's also for you. And so again, embracing that cloud opportunity allows you to expand your footprint, expand what you can service, and ultimately it expands the value you can bring. And so that ultimately can change your client engagement overall as well. So just in terms of looking at time and trying to move through, what I'm going to do is go to phase 3, which is really around how do you thrive, how do you go from here. So now you've got the strong, solid foundation across the board in your journey. But now you want to iterate on that, and you want to basically get that flywheel to sing. And so step 7 is, again, this goes back to my earlier topic of leveraging the practice efficiencies, capturing that white space. At this point, you've expanded your footprint, you've expanded your client base. You now need to take that step back once again and look at where am I getting my highest value, where ultimately do I want to steer my clients to be doing, where do I want to be steering my practice to going, and ultimately where can I drive further efficiencies out of the collective system. And identifying that and then leveraging that to your advantage. And that really comes down to increasing your value that you're providing and lowering your costs overall and lowering your time. And so again, time is the quintessential element of everything. That's what you have the most limited quantity of, and it's freeing up as much of that and applying it into the right spots. And so that's what step 7 is about. Step 8 is identifying ideal clients. This is the positive way of writing it. I go down the more negative route, which is fire some clients. At this point, you need to look at your client base and figure out which ones are right for you, which ones aren't, and you got to do the thinning exercise. A lot of folks will do it, once a year, but again, it's tough, it's hard, I know, but again, time is the thing you have a limited quantity of, and you've got to be able to weed out those that don't respect your time, don't respect the value that you bring, and are ultimately steering your business down paths that ultimately are going to shortchange both you and, frankly, them. They're probably going to be better served by somebody else, someone that's going to be a better fit. And so you need to cut the cord because, again, it's good for you and it's good for them. What happens at this point is, and how these things come together, is as you mature over time, it forces you down a path of specialization. And the reason for that is it allows you to, again, increase your value, increase your pricing. And again, it's because of the limited quantities of things that you have, like time. And so you will be gravitating towards verticalized solutions or vertical markets, particular types of customers. Through word of mouth, you ultimately will become known for certain things that you do really well. And you will then go into the specialization cycle where you become more and more focused. And you have to be. And that's ultimately where you're able to provide the best value for clients long term. And so ultimately the step on specialization is identifying that, becoming really tuned with the different products in that particular space that you're focusing on, and then being able to reorient yourself to that particular realm. And so that goes to my last step, which is reinvent your marketing. You will find that you might be doing this along this path already. You will do several times of reinvention. But once you specialize, that's where the biggest part of your reinvention or your marketing reinvention has to take place. Because you need to communicate very clearly to that particular targeted audience on what you do and how you do it and why you're the best in the business in doing it. And so that step 10 is that reinvention. And it's not only reinventing the website, it's how you go socially. It's all the different components that make a lot of folks uncomfortable. But again, if you want to grow off of that specialization, it's the things you got to do. And then that ultimately leads back to the cycle. So you're going to see that in this phase 3, it's going to continue to cycle and you can continue to scale. And it really goes back to where you want to take your business. So you may not want to grow huge, but you may want to grow to be comfortable and to be able to free up time for yourself. And you may want to grow to be huge. And again, it comes back to how to, again, continually to leverage those efficiencies and thin out, focus more, and then be able to market yourself accordingly. So again, that in a nutshell is how the all 10 steps come together. Based on the time, I'm just going to do a quick little deep dive on Xero because I've mentioned it a bunch of times so everyone can get a quick perspective. But I'm not going to do a product demo because we don't have time. But I'm more than happy. I'll show you where you can actually see a product demo in detail. What I mentioned before at the beginning of the talk, again, is why cloud accounting is effective and how it changes the model. And it really comes down to what we've nicknamed as the single ledger. It's allowing you to be collaborative off of a shared set of data. As we talked about automated daily bank feeds and the capture of information throughout the day, it's in one place where, again, clients are able to interact with that through their own view of the world with the AR, AP, expense claims, and so forth. And from accounting perspective, it's getting all the tools you need to be able to service them. So in conjunction with things the client would see that you would have access to, it's the GL, management reporting, annual reporting, fixed assets, and the like. So I'll go ahead and I'll show a quick video. Is that okay, Damien? And then we'll wrap it up and take any last questions.
Yeah, perfect. So stay tuned for the final poll just for CPE, and we'll watch this quick video, Ian. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Many businesses are still using accounting software from a CD-ROM, so a company's financial data can only be viewed and updated from one computer. Typically, once a year, your client sends you their files. Before you can work your magic, you need to convert their data into a format that works with your own accounting and reporting software. This old approach means you have two different ledgers that are completely out of sync. Neither ledger has the entire picture. When you multiply that across hundreds of clients, think of the hours you spend dealing with incompatible software, corrupt files, different versions, re-entering transactions, and data conversions. That wasted time isn't adding any value to your practice, and it's certainly not adding value to your client's business. Two major changes make the old way obsolete. The first major change is cloud computing. Online apps have completely changed the way people do business, such as banking, email, and of course accounting. The second major change is the single ledger. The single ledger is one of the most important breakthroughs in accounting since the personal computer. With the single ledger, both you and your clients have access to the same data using the same system at the same time, not just at the end of the year, but but whenever your client needs your advice, it's a live view of the business finances. More importantly, the tools you use to prepare management and annual reports run on the same ledger that your clients use. This changes the relationship you have with your clients from an annual handover with one large fee to an ongoing collaboration that you bill monthly. That's much better for cash flow, more profitable, and your clients will love you. When you have all your clients on a single ledger, it really is a game changer. Producing individual reports for each client used to take hours. Now, by automatically linking each client's unique chart of accounts to a standardized set of reporting codes, you can apply tailored reports across large sets of clients. The shift to cloud computing and the single ledger has marked a major turning point in the business of accounting. To learn more, go to xero.com/cloud.
So let me just go back. So again, if you're interested in Xero, interested in some of the details, I'll just show you here real quick. So if you go to xero.com, if you want to try the product out, which goes back to trying it for yourself, if you go to xero.com/signup, you can try a free trial of the product. If you want to become a partner, again, and get your free version of the free partner edition for your practice, which I mentioned earlier, if you go to xero.com/partners, again, you can watch the same video. But you can also sign up here. You just fill out a form, and you can go ahead and get. We'll turn that on for you. Again, we also have our own free partner program. So when you click through here and you scroll down, you can see the benefits of being in the program. It's pretty extensive. And then again, if you want to have more information and learn about Xero specifically, if you actually go to xero.com/events, it'll take you to here. And if you go to the partner training, you can go here to get an intro of Xero, either live or video, do our certification, and then again, you can learn here about, I mentioned before, the value-based pricing. Just in case you wanted to get a quick peek at what the product actually looks like overall, and again, I'm not going to go ahead and do a demo, but at least just show you an overview real quick. This is what Xero looks like. Again, you have your bank feeds and your bank accounts that come in. You've got your money going in, money going out, expense claims, and again, the key piece is really around the bank feeds and being able to make it so that your small business client can have the ability to go ahead and play essentially a matching game to be able to go through their bank reconciliation. So again, that's it from my perspective. Damien, I'll throw it back to you. So questions, thoughts, anything particular that comes up?
Yeah, Ian, we'll just do the final poll. Let's ask the question, what's stopping you from going to the cloud? When we're talking about cloud in this environment, it really is about the web-based platform, and that's where we're seeing a huge leveling and huge opportunity, rather moving away from the typical desktop versions of software, going to web-based platforms. We are seeing this as a game changer. When we ran when we showed the bank reconciliation module on Xero, one of the members sat there and said, well, it's just a bank reconciliation. And we said, yes, it is, but you've got to remember in the back end of the software, it's doing the double entry bookkeeping and bringing it onto that single ledger, which makes the world of difference. And we've moved out one of our business entities onto to Xero, and I think we're in phase 1 or phase 2. And when the bookkeepers see what's happening, they get it. When we just show some of the clients that this is what we're looking at, are you interested, they get it. And it has been interesting because 60% of you have said, my clients are resistant to change. When you talk to them about no more updates, unlimited users, up-to-date financials, this is what they're interested in and what they want. So I think get in there and have a look at that demo. It doesn't look like any questions have come through, which is quite interesting, Ian. But I'll close that poll. 60% have said, my clients are resistant to change. I would challenge that. I think go back into that client list, have a look at the suggestions that Ian made in terms of identifying 1 or 2 people, and when they're next in, just show them. Show them the video. Is this of interest to you? Should we spend some time working this out? Start up that demo account and get signed up and get in there, because the other aspect of it is I need all of our members who say they're cutting edge and leading edge and always using the latest technology, I need them to be aware of what Xero is. I need you to be able to talk intelligently about Xero is, because if a client or a prospective client comes in and says, oh, I've been hearing a lot about Xero or some of these other web-based platforms, and you stare at them glassy-eyed, already you've really missed an opportunity, and you've really countered your claim that you are at the cutting edge and leading edge of technology. So I need you to get in there. And the 10 steps that Ian presented I thought were very effective, that allow us to transition our firm and our clients little by little. We don't need to jump head first into the icy waters. Let's just dip our toe in, and what we'll find is the water's pretty good in here, and there are other firms around the country and around the world that are doing this. So, Ian, it doesn't look like any questions have come in. Maybe any final thoughts from yourself, but I will just like to say thank you very much to you. Is there anything you wanted to add on 60% of clients resistant to change?
No, I think, again, I appreciate the time. I think in terms of everyone's resistant to change. I'm resistant to change. But the difference is understanding where the opportunity lies. And so when you ask someone, well, do you want to change, they're going to say no. But when you actually show them what they're able to obtain and what they're able to get, and you step through how they can save time, how they can save money, and how they can ultimately change their business trajectory, then they're open to change. But it's in that conversation, and it's really sitting down with that client and asking the tough questions, understanding the details of where they're struggling, and then identifying, well, what are the answers to that? And the answer might be Xero, and it might be something else. But again, that's how, going all back to being proactive with the client and having these conversations, you'll find that as you're able to provide the answers to the pains that they have, that change problem will go away. So I appreciate the time, and again, check out Xero at Xero.com. But yeah, again, 10 steps to the cloud. Any questions, feel free to ask me at any time. So
Ian,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I will post the recording to the website, to our YouTube channel within the next hour or so, so it will be up there. I'm going to end this